guests have called for 1 million African American men to march on Washington, D.C. this October 16th. What is the purpose of this march? And what will be accomplished by 1 million African American men marching on the nation's capital? Why aren't women being allowed to march in solidarity with their husbands, brothers, and sons? There are many questions, and we're very grateful that the Honorable Minister Louis Farrakhan, Dr. Benjamin Chavis, and Dr. Cornel West are here tonight to provide answers to all of the questions. This is a conversation between all of us in the African American community, so please join us. This evening, our phone lines are open to you tonight. This is a live broadcast, so please write down this important number, 1-800-321-8336. 1-800-321-8336. And if you're in the Virginia, Maryland, and our national capital area, you can reach us by calling 832-0736. 832-0736. Call us. The Minister Louis Farrakhan, Dr. Benjamin Chavis, and Dr. Cornel West here tonight to discuss the Million Man March on Washington, D.C. Join us. Don't miss it. Our guests tonight need very little introduction, so please join me as we welcome the Honorable Minister Louis Farrakhan. He is the spiritual leader of the Nation of Islam and the convener of the Million Man March here in Washington, D.C. Meet Dr. Benjamin F. Chavis, Jr. He is the National Director of the Million Man March. And also meet Dr. Cornel West, Professor of Afro-American Studies and Religion at Harvard University. And he is the author of one of our favorite books. It is a bestseller, Race Matters. To all of you gentlemen, welcome to the show.
Thank you. Thank you.
Minister Farrakhan, let me say how honored we are to have all of you here, and particularly you as the convener of this march. But we have to ask why. Why 1 million black men coming to the nation's capital?
Because of the movement in America toward a hardening position toward the aspirations of our people for justice. And because of the recent Supreme Court decision against affirmative action, because of areas in the criminal justice where 3 strikes and you're in prison for the rest of your life, and because of the proliferation of guns and drugs in our community and the horrendous black male fratricide, and because of the image of black people in general and black men in particular throughout the earth as seen through movies and television, that we are brutes and savages and beasts and immoral and violent people, we felt that we needed to give the world another view of us as black men. I traveled this country, Bev, for the last year talking to black men. I spoke to over 150,000 young men. We are coming to Washington to say to America, to the world, and above all, to our wives, our mothers, and our children, that we are ready to shoulder our responsibility as men, to accept our God-given mandate to be the heads of our families, the builders of our communities. We call it a Day of Atonement. And we feel that as men, we first must atone to God for our failure to be the men that God made us to be. We have put untold suffering on our women and girls because of our destruction. And now we must appeal to God to accept our offering, to give us back the power and dominion that he gave man in the garden, that we may once again be the men that God created us to be. The march is not against females. It's not to say that we don't love our women, but we feel we must do something to atone for what we have done to our women and the abuse that we have heaped upon our women.
Dr. Chavis, there are a lot of women who are upset about this, though. They say, we have always been in solidarity with the men. Why shouldn't we be there marching with them? Several from major organizations.
Well, we want black women to support us. This is not to exclude black women. It is to embrace black women. We want black men to rise up, Bev. If the black man in America would straighten up, if we would straighten up our backs, we could improve the lot and the condition of our people throughout the United States. I'm pleased to announce that Dr. Dorothy Height, the president of the National Council of Negro Women, has enthusiastically endorsed the Million Man March, as well as black women from all over the United States are coming forward to say, I want my man to straighten up his back. I want my man to
and stand tall.
That's right.
That's right.
So while there may be a few dissenters, black men, black women, black children, the black family, the black community is going to salute this National Day of Atonement. And keep in mind, the day of absence involves black men and women and children. While black men will be marching 1 million strong on Washington, D.C., we want black women and those black men that cannot get to Washington not to work that day.
So that's what you're calling the Day of Absence.
Day of Absence, Day of Atonement, getting right with God and getting right with one another.
So, Dr. West, this is more than just a political march to say, look at us. This is a spiritual march.
Very much so. I think part of the genius of this call from Brother Minister Louis Farrakhan is to fuse the theological and the political rooted in the community. To say that black men need to wake up, black men need to clean up, black men need to stand up alongside black women, marching in the spirit of Fannie Lou Hamer on the one hand, but also recognizing that this is a day of atonement. I want to come back to that. Now, as a Christian...
And what does atonement mean? Explain to our... I'm sorry.
Right, atonement means for a Christian for the symbol of the cross, but for religious people it means an acknowledgement of our shortcomings, that all of us have to critically examine ourselves, which means we're going to critically examine American society. We're going to focus on that vicious legacy of white supremacy. We're going to focus on ourselves and the way in which that white supremacy is still in us and the other ways in which we engage in abuse of one another, not respecting one another. And then we're going to try to generate some motion and some movement because there's too many folk out there who are losing hope.
We have a lot of people waiting, but let's talk for a little bit more, and then we'll get right to the phones because we want to hear what you think. But how will 1 million men marching, I predict it'll probably be more than 1 million, but how will that many men, black, marching in the nation's capital say anything? What will it do?
Well, if 1 million fleas showed up in Washington, there'd be a lot of people concerned about the nuisance of 1 million fleas. If 1 million bees showed up in Washington, there'd be a war room where strategy would be going on because of the potential sting of those bees. 1 million black men standing together, strong and tall, disciplined, dedicated, and recommitted to the principles of family and God and unity and the reconciling of our differences, then leveraging that 1 million men. Now, you know, Sister Beverly, when you can make a man economically and politically mature, you, in the parlance of political science, you have made that man a tangible factor of power. If we can raise the level of consciousness of our men and our women and our children, then we become a tangible factor of power that we can leverage against the horrendous policies of this country domestically and internationally to free black people all over the world. This is the greatest country on earth, the most powerful country on earth, but we are articulators of a foreign policy that we do not formulate. So Africa is suffering, the Caribbean is suffering, Central and South America are suffering, and God has placed us, the children of slaves, in the most advantageous position. So if we unite and reconcile ourselves with God and gain power and spirit from God and reconcile our differences, then we can face the oppressor with strength and make a change in America that will make a change in the world.
But, she said, looking at both of you, he used the word discipline. Can you get, and I mean this honestly, 1 million black men to come into this town and be disciplined?
Yes.
Will you have to train them? What will you do?
The good news is, Bev, as a national director for the Million Man March for the last several months, I've been in urban areas as well as rural communities. And black men from all walks of life are coming together. We're building a marvelous network. Also, a lot of black women are helping us form the local organizing committees for the Million Man March. I just want to pick up something Mr. Farrakhan said in terms of what that power would mean assembled 1 million strong. You know there are 8 million unregistered black voters. Well, as part of our organizing leading up until October 16th, we're registering black voters. And we are asking them to register as independents. No longer will the black vote be taken for granted by the Republicans or the Democrats.
That's enough to take a break on because we have spent some time with it. We're talking about the Million Man March in Washington, D.C. We'll let you talk right after these important messages right here on Our Voices. Welcome back to our very special broadcast live tonight about the 1 million African-American Man March being planned October the 16th. Our phone lines are open and we want to hear what you have to say. Hello, California. Thank you for holding. Welcome to the show.
Hello, California. Are you there?
We have absolutely no time to fool around, okay? So do me a favor. This is serious business tonight. If you want to get involved with the conversation, call. If not, we'll continue talking. So let's get to this issue of discipline. I just recently, today as a matter of fact, came from the Urban League Convention. The emphasis was on young people. I want to talk to you about young black men and what you're going to do to get them to A, get involved, and B, become more disciplined. Because what I saw, even though there were a lot of young men involved with the Urban League, was a lack of discipline and almost an anger toward any suggestion of discipline. How are you going to get the young folks involved?
If I may say, Sister Beverly, that when we first started talking to black men, we started in New York City at the Armory on 42nd Street. There were lines of black men from 5th Avenue back to Lenox, then to Lenox to 145th Street. Women were bringing their young men to the Armory, and there were 12,000 young men disciplined under the word. See, when we think of discipline, we think of authority imposing itself on human beings to bring about order. But Jesus brought about discipline, and his disciples were called that because they willingly accepted to be disciplined by a word. I spoke to 35,000 black men in Houston, 10,000 in Dallas, 10,000 in New Orleans, and here in Washington on a very rainy night, 10,000 men showed up. There was never a problem of discipline. Why? Because the word that you speak is what black men are hungering for. Black men want to be empowered, not with a gun, not with foolishness, but with knowledge. And when you impart knowledge to our men, they reach for it. And the reaching out for knowledge disciplines the mind, and the mind disciplines the body. The only time we'll have a problem with 1 million black men is if some agent provocateur is in the audience. But we will have so many black men watching for that agent provocateur. The moment he raises his head, well, he will be put in check.
It's best to go to the phones with that statement, Minister. And let's go to Texas. Hello, Texas. Thank you for waiting.
Hi, how you doing? I'm behind this march all the way. But what scares me and what I'm fearful of is that we still have evil, bloodthirsty forces out there that will take this opportunity to massacre 1 million black men, just as if they did in Oklahoma, just kill children, just right off. And now there are people out there that still have this evil, bloodthirsty aggressiveness in their heart from centuries back, and that will use this against us, and that's my biggest fear.
I would like to address that, my dear sister. There is no doubt that there is an element of danger for 1 million black men assembled anywhere at any time. That frightens the powers that be. But my dear sister, if you believe in the higher power, if you believe that God has power not only over the forces of nature, but over the minds and hearts of men to turn their minds to thinking and doing as he pleases. See, we're not coming here fearing any man or any gun or any power. There's only one power. And when we reconcile ourselves to that power, power will be in our hands in Washington. Not guns, but the power and spirit of God. And remember, sister, the words of the scripture. The Lord is the strength of my life. Of whom shall I be afraid? And though the arrow that comes by day or by night, I am shadowed under the wings of the Almighty. This is a holy day, a day that black men will do something for expiation of our own sins, reconciling our differences to the Supreme Being. And we are looking to him to be our protector, our shield, and our buckler on that day.
Yes. We thank the caller for the question. It was a good one. Let's go to Ohio. Hello, Ohio. Welcome to the show.
Hello, Bev.
Yes.
Oh, thank you. I have a short comment and a question. First of all, with regard to discipline, that was the same question raised when we tried to bring gang members together in Kansas City, as Brother Ben Chavis would remember. And we had 186 gang leaders from around the country. We didn't have one incident, and that was 4 days. And in Minneapolis, when Brother Minister came there and spoke to us, and this is Brother Carl Upchurch, and we didn't have one incident. And when we went to San Antonio, the same thing existed. So with this type of feeling and the spirit and the atonement issues, we are very ready to come to Washington and support these initiatives, particularly with the circumstances that we're under now. But I have a question for the panel, and I think the Brother Minister probably would best address this. Brother Minister, there is an issue with regard to the Nation of Islam having the shroud of presentation here, and there are those who think that our issues can be sucked into the animus that's against the nation and historically has been against the nation, with the nation being represented as the figurehead of this. Is it possible that you can address this, Brother Minister, to show that there is a wide variety of brothers who are hungry for what this is, who are hungry for these issues to be presented, and who are eager to be a part of it, and who are very much in support of the nation, and what Brother West is talking about, and particularly Brother Ben Chavis. And hi, Ben.
How are you?
Thank you.
It's an excellent question.
Thank you for your
It's an
question.
excellent question.
If I may say very briefly, but I would like our brothers to please comment on this also. You know, there are some things and events in history that transcend persons and personalities. All of us have some degree of baggage. I might carry some trunks, I don't know. But they're not trunks of my making. Others have made these for me. But be that as it may, this vision that I believe came from God himself at a time like this transcends Louis Farrakhan. It transcends the Nation of Islam. This is not some Islamic thing or Muslim thing or some Christian or Baptist or Methodist thing. It's about black people in atonement to reconcile with God. And the best thing to describe it is that scripture in 2 Chronicles. If my people, which are called by my name, will humble themselves and pray and seek my face and turn from their wicked ways, then will I hear from heaven and forgive their sins and heal their land. Our community is in need of healing, and we are in need of empowerment. So we're not going to let any personality or any a group that has baggage ruin a day that brings us all closer to God and closer to one another. I'd like my brothers to
And we
respond.
need to say that good that this is out of the way. We thank the brother from Ohio for answering that question, because you know it has haunted the very mention of this march, hasn't it?
It has, and I think that it's been well said by Brother Minister Louis Farrakhan when he says, we're talking about something bigger than all of us. We're talking about black suffering. We're talking about black social misery.
At every level.
At every level. And we need to have some hope to resist it, both in ourselves. We can energize and galvanize ourselves and one another, and then move toward the future.
Yes.
Now, the fact that this comes from a Muslim brother is a historical fact, but it is part of a movement that's bigger than him, than us.
That's right.
Both past and present.
And that is evident by the multitude of people who are involved in the actual planning, isn't
That's
it,
right.
Ben?
I also would like to thank Carl for his question, and going back to the sister's question too, because what I wanted to say earlier was that keep in mind the reality in our communities. Blood is being shed in our communities
Already.
but we are killing each other. There is suffering, there's self-destruction. Who's going to stop the self-destruction of black people?
Only
But
black people.
That's
No
right.
one
And this
else.
Day of Atonement will have a significant impact on redirecting the anger and the rage that's in our community. This is for the uplift of our entire race.
And we should treat it that way.
No question about it.
Let's go to the phones. Hello, California. Welcome to the show.
Yes. First of all, let me say it is indeed a pleasure, Mr. Farrakhan, just to have the opportunity to see you on television. I'm Norman Carter. I've been a great admirer of what you've done. My question is, over the years, it appears as if there have been more efforts put forward to try to stop the black race from advancing into society. Do you have any maybe ideas or anything that you might want to add to why do you think there's a definite effort trying to stop the black race from even making any kind of progress at all?
Yes. My dear brother, two things cannot occupy the same space at the same time. The prevailing idea in this world is the idea of white supremacy.
Minister, we're going to have to take a break.
Yes.
I want you to get right to him so no one else will call and ask that question again.
All right.
Will you do that for me?
Yes.
Go right ahead.
The prevailing idea of this world is white supremacy. And from that, a whole system of racism that has affected religion, economics, social life, politics, jurisprudence, whatever. So now, as we begin to rise, we challenge that idea of white supremacy. There are some white persons who recognize that this idea has to die in order for the kingdom of God to come in. And so they must fight us because we represent an idea that is different from white supremacy. It is the supremacy of right, not white.
And we have always represented that. So they're bothering us is nothing new to us, wouldn't you say, Minister?
I
we
would
want you to
agree.
call us. This conversation is open to you. We're talking about something positive happening in the black community, and we'll continue talking about it right after these important messages. African-American men being called to Washington, D.C. with discipline, honor, and respect. Hello, Oklahoma. Welcome to the show.
Hello. Hi. How you doing?
I'm fine.
This is addressed to Minister Farrakhan. Let me see.
Go ahead. Don't be nervous.
Okay. Well, I'm.
And don't listen to your TV. Speak right up.
Okay. Well, basically, my family, I'm sort of like the only girl, and we're having a lot of problems in our family. What can I do since if we don't have a way down there to Washington to be,
A part of it.
Yes.
How old are you, first dear?
I'm 18.
And you're saying, what can you do right at home with your brothers
Yes.
to be involved in this? Minister?
Yeah.
Sister, there is a companion piece that every person in the country can do while we are in Washington. And that is this. First, We have to reconcile differences within all of our families. In every house, somebody has a disagreement with somebody. On that day, we get it together. In every church, we want the church doors all over Black America opened. And everyone that has a disagreement, go to the church that day and reconcile your differences, so that after that day, the church will be stronger, the mosque will be stronger, the temple, the synagogue will be stronger. In organizations, as we struggle for justice, we have wittingly and unwittingly offended one another. We must reconcile and settle our differences. On that day, sister, we don't go to work. We don't go to school. We don't go shopping. They don't see a black face in the mall, in the liquor store, in the bar. They don't see us spending money that day. That day, no sports should be played. No entertainment should be given. We shouldn't play our horn and sing the blues for them on that day.
Let me stop you a moment. Now, you've just said you're talking about a lot of money. Are you talking about cutting out Monday Night Football? Are you asking African-American football players not to play football?
I'm asking black football players, baseball players, basketball players on the college level, on the professional level. It is a holy day. We're meeting with religious leaders across this nation to declare October 16th our first declared holy day. Every holiday that we have was given to us by our former slave masters. And as slaves, we rejoiced when our slave master had a holiday because we didn't have to work anymore. So the only holiday that we really have really has been Dr. King's holiday. We have profaned Christmas by making it the most drunken day and letting Santa Claus move Jesus out. We have another holiday called Easter, which becomes a fashion show day. We have profaned divine things with things that are worldly. This day, we fast from sun up to sundown. We pray together as a family. We are trying to reconcile ourselves to God and to each other so that God will empower us to heal our communities. Then we want registrars in all the churches so that those in the community who are not registered to vote will go to their church, their mosque, their temple, their synagogue, and register to vote, so that this next election, next year, which will be the last presidential election of this century, no party will ever take our vote for granted anymore. We will deal in this election from a position of strength. We will hold our vote and make the presidential hopefuls speak to an agenda that is in our interest and in the best interest of the poor and the locked out and the downtrodden of this nation. So the Mexican Americans that want to march with us, the Hispanics that want to march with us, the Native Americans who want to march with us, the Arabs that want to march with us, you can march, but we're still calling for 1 million black men.
So what you're saying, if I'm sitting out there and I'm a Native American, and I'm looking at my history as a person of color in America, I can come to Washington, D.C.?
Yes, indeed.
On this Day of Atonement.
Yes, indeed.
If I am Asian and I'm upset about the way I've been treated in this country, I can come?
Yes.
Has anyone said, I will come? Have you heard from these various ethnic groups?
Absolutely. In some of the local organizing committees, we've had Latino brothers and Native American to come to the meetings. Keep in mind, those convoys leaving Seattle, Washington, San Francisco, Los Angeles, San Diego, coming across the country, are going to go across Indian territory. We're not just going to ride through Indian land. Some Native American brothers and sisters are going to sign on. I'm going to say that I'm pleased to report some NBA players and some NFL players have already come forward to say...
Are you free to say who they are?
Well, they're meeting because they're going to have an announcement, but they're going to do it collectively because we don't want any one brother
to stand alone?
To stand alone and be sacrificed. This is something that's going to transform the whole of America, not just black America.
May I say something, please? You know, there was a movie recently, several years ago, that was shot in London about a Jewish youngster who was a great runner. And he was running in the Olympics, and it was Yom Kippur,
Yes.
the Day of Atonement in the Hebraic tradition. And that man would not run to break the holiness of that day. And I would hope that we would take this day so seriously that we would leave off sport and play and any profane thing, because as a community, we need the spirit and power of God to change the realities under which we live.
We're asking you to get involved by joining us this evening. Let's go to Tennessee. Hello, Tennessee. Welcome to the show.
Thank you. Assalamu alaikum.
Wa alaikum salam.
First of all, I'd like to make it known that I am not one of the sisters that wants to march. I think black women have been, standing in the forefront with many black men, and I'm proud of our brothers and other men of color. My question is to expand on the sister that called before. Brother, I live in a very, very small town in Tennessee, and it's basically dead, for lack of a better word. I have not been successful in explaining to people the importance of this day. I don't know if any of the brothers here will be taking part in the march or not, but how can I, in very simple and basic terms, explain the importance of the day of absence, at least to the people that I work with or in the community?
Cornell, why don't you answer that question, because this is a question that everyone wants to hear an answer to.
I would say first that the march is going to be for those who are tired of being disrespected and denigrated and disregarded. Secondly, I would say it's a holy day, and when we say holy, we mean three things. Truth. On that day, we want to hear the truth about America. Underemployment, unemployment, decrepit housing, unavailable child care. We want to hear the truth about black folk. How have we abused one another? How have we put each other down? And we want to link that truth to a beauty, to see the beauty of folk coming together who are engaged in something about themselves and not about somebody else. This is not about putting others down. This is about affirming us. And lastly, it's about goodness. We want to attempt to be better and to promote the good. So the holy is about the true, the beautiful, and the good. So you tell those brothers and sisters on the street, if they're tired of being disrespected, if they want to hear the truth about their situation in America and the world, if they're concerned about black beauty, and if they want to promote the good, then they ought to be in on this.
And you know, one other thing that I would say, and this is something that is a tradition for African-American people, if those brothers and sisters in her town of Tennessee don't want to get involved, pray for them. After all, this is a day for prayer, is it not? So should we not pray that they will understand and get the message?
And they should pray for us.
That we will understand.
That's right.
We'll take a break, and when we come back, you call us and get involved in something that will happen in October. Welcome back. On October 16th of this year, 1 million African-American men are being asked to come to the nation's capital. If you'd like to get involved, get your pencil and paper ready, because here is the address and the telephone number for you to get more information. You can contact the Million Man March Incorporated. You can even write for information. They'll send it to you. 145 Kennedy Street Northwest. 145 Kennedy Street Northwest, Washington, D.C., 20011-5294. That's 20011-5294. And a toll-free number, so you don't have to worry about spending your money to get information. 1-800-324-9243. 1-800-324-9243. And our phone lines are open to talk with you. The minister said he wants football players, basketball players, everybody to stop on that day. It is a religious day. Problem. Suppose a woman wants to become involved. She's the head of the house. She goes to her boss and she says, October 16th is my holiday. I want to take that day off. And he says, I don't know anything about that holiday. You have to come to work. What would you advise her, him, the family to do?
Well, first, I think she should go back to her employer and say, this is a holy day. not a holiday, and explain that she has a fundamental right that's protected by the Constitution of the United States to respect her religious days. And if some employer out there wants to start punishing brothers and sisters because we respect on October 16th, our first holy day, then we're going to take them to task. We're not going to let anyone be punished because they're trying to do what's right. But you know, there's another aspect to the march we haven't touched on yet, and that is the economic. The first demand is the first demand on self, what we're going to do in terms of our own self-uplift, assuming self-responsibility for the community. The second demand is on the government. We've talked about that some. But the third demand is on corporate America. Bev, the University of Georgia has just documented that the expendable income, this is after we pay taxes, of African Americans, is $428 billion a year. Now, that's a lot of money that we are spending not in our own community, not in our own financial institutions, not with our own black businesses. We got to change that. So this Day of Atonement means that we have to realign our relationship with corporate America. We have to realign our relationship with one another on how we should be supporting black-owned businesses.
Have you done that, Ben? Have you written letters to corporate America saying on October the 16th, and please tell me why October the 16th? Does it have any significance when you respond?
Well, yes.
Have you said to them
October
that's the
16th
day?
is a Monday. It's a work day. You know, all of our marches in the past have been on the weekends. We wanted to catch government in session. For the day of absence to be felt, it has to be done on a work day. The black worker in America is taken for granted. We're going to let the power of the black workforce be felt by all of America. But let's go back to corporate America, and it's $428 billion. To all the Fortune 500 companies that may be watching B.E.T. tonight, we're on the way.
Get ready for the call.
Get ready, because we're going to press demands on all of corporate America to realign the relationship. There needs to be reinvestment in our community. In 1963, the demand was for a job. We're asking for more than a job in 1995. We want to own the factory. We want to own the bank. We want to own the chain, not just to be able to eat in a restaurant. We want to own that restaurant and a chain of those restaurants.
Or build our own.
Or build our own. Get back to the land. What the Nation of Islam is doing in terms of getting that land in Georgia and other parts of the South, raising those crops. We have to be more productive from within in order to impact the society. So our demands are going to be pretty comprehensive on October 16th, 1995.
Okay, quickly, because I want to take this call from Maryland, but quickly, I'm very curious. I get a lot of mail from men in prison, and they want to get involved. If I'm in prison and I'm watching Bev right now, what can I do?
We thought that question would come up. Our brothers in prison, in fact, many wardens have written asking what are the guidelines for that day. After we meet with the religious leaders, we will develop something that all of the inmates of prisons
can be involved
in on that day with the march. But I don't have something specific right now.
We'll just ask him to pray. We'll just ask him to pray. Hello, Marilyn. Welcome to the show.
Hey, how you doing? Assalamu alaikum.
Walaikum salam.
I'd like to address my question to Honorable Louis Farrakhan. After the march is over with, what will happen then? You know, as far as I'm saying, like, in 1960, it took like 30 years, you know, my brothers and sisters, we couldn't, you know, sit in a restaurant and, you know, have dinner or whatever. Yes. But, you know, how things have evolved and things have changed. But I want to know what will happen after the march is over. Well, you know, like, will people, you know what I'm saying, will people go and say, okay, it's over with, that's it? Or,
okay. All right. In the interest of time.
There are several things, brother. First, if we just come on October the 16th and have a big day, it would be considered vanity, foolishness. There has to be something after the march. All of these million men, it's not an anonymous thing. We know, have their names, their addresses, and we're going to be in constant contact. The name of this game is the Organization of the Entire Black Community for Power. Now, hear me, brother. After this day, an agenda will be developed. We will come into the various communities across this nation for you to hear an agenda that has been developed by the African American Leadership Summit that we feel is good for all black people. We want you to amend it and or ratify it.
You're developing a platform?
Exactly. A platform
and what
on
will you
which
do with it?
Well, we intend first to bring this platform before all of the presidential hopefuls. They have to see that we are serious about our vote. They will not get our vote this time because we're Democrats or because we're Republicans. They're going to get our vote this time because they pledge to act on our agenda.
The issues that concern us.
And
Is
if
Jesse
they don't,
Jackson
we have
involved?
to punish them.
Is Reverend Jackson involved?
We've reached out to Reverend Jesse Jackson, and we've reached out to all of our leaders throughout the black community. One of the things we have is a lot of leaders. The problem is getting the leaders to work together, getting us to pool our resources. So an outreach has been made to the Reverend Jesse Jackson.
Okay. I want to talk about the churches, too, since we mentioned Reverend Jackson. I want to ask you. So let's take a break, and when we come back, these three gentlemen are men of the cloth. How many others will be involved? Right after this. Welcome back. The church, how involved is it?
It's very involved and ought to be even more and will be. Why? Because the legacy of Martin Luther King Jr. representing the best of the church is operative in what we're talking about. Keep in mind that King met with the great freedom fighter Amir Baraka the week before he was murdered. And he said, what is most fundamental is unified African-American leadership is counterproductive for the bickering among leaders. If you're serious Christian, John 15:12 says, love ye one another. It doesn't say love ye one another with the exception of Muslim brothers and sisters, or with the exception of Minister Louis Farrakhan.
Put all those aside.
But love them enough to push them, to criticize them so that we can have some black operational unity, and then even link it to even broader progressives if we move down that road in a significant way as well.
When we move down that road.
If we have the courage to. This is going to be the challenge.
The fact is we're moving down that road. In every state and every major city, we're forming local organizing committees for the Million Man March. I want all of the listeners to get involved. Help get these black men, these 1 million brothers, to Washington, D.C. on October the 16th.
And guess
that
what?
That means money.
This is the first time that we have called a march and have not asked corporate America, unions, or philanthropic people to give us their money. This march has to be supported totally by us. It's a step in the right direction. And lastly, sisters, in the spirit of Harriet Tubman. You know, she forced those weak men to get on that freedom road. So what you do, you pack that man's lunch, give him a bottle of water. I don't say get the shotgun, but tell him, get on the road to Washington. It's a holy day. God bless us all. Let's make a change in America. Let's not watch history. Let's make history.
Well, then that's one way for women.
We want to thank you.
B.E.T.
That's right.
Because we know that the brother went out there on this. We want to thank you for this.
Thank you. Thank you for being a part of this. But, you know, I think it's interesting if women want to get involved. You need money. You're going to need money for housing, for food. That's something the organizations can do. Can't women, our sororities, our charitable, can't we get food together like we always do for the warriors?
If we could send $1, $2, $5, whatever you can afford to Million Man March, Inc. on Kennedy Street here in Washington, D.C. They put it up on that. There you go. Send your $1, send your $5, send your $10, send your $100 to Million Man March, Inc.
So now, women, you don't have to feel like you're not involved. The messenger has told you what to do, okay? That's exactly what we want you to do. And the number to call is 1-800-324-9243. Thank you, gentlemen, for joining us. Now, are there buses going to be available before we go?
Absolutely.
If I call, can you tell me if I don't have transportation, who to contact in my city?
Yes.
What about the hotels?
Well, most of the people are coming in early in that morning and leaving out that day. There are not that many people going to actually be staying in the hotels. To move 1 million men into Washington, D.C., and then to move 1 million men out of Washington, D.C., over a 10-hour period is going to be a logistical challenge.
Okay, quickly, where is the key focal point? You know, is it going to be at the Kennedy Memorial? Where is it going to be?
The United States Capitol.
The
In 1963, our backs were to the Capitol. This time we're going to be we're going right up to Gingrich's face.
The Million Man March. We thank all of you for joining us. Until the next time, stand up, be counted, get involved, and pray for peace.